thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. The purpose of this, and I think we don't have to do introductions anymore because I think we all know each other by now. Let me just state that I thank you all for your participation this week in Provincial Week. Thank you for very good questions asked and for probing the information that that was given to us, and for keeping the name of the NCOP high everywhere that we went. So I'd just like to thank you all for that. The purpose of this meeting is to have a very high-level overview summary of what we did in the last 3 days. So I suggest what we do, and I want to say thank you very much to our content advisor, Kobus Jooste, who's worked basically through the night to make sure that this document is ready for us so soon today. He literally had to include the last bit of infrastructure just before lunch. So Kobus, from us, thank you very much for the effort you've put into this overview, and we look forward to the end result that you are surely going to be working on a lot over the next month or so. So we will present the full report in a debate on somewhere in November, I think. Yeah, it's somewhere in the program. I saw it anyway. Okay, so what I suggest we do is I read through the document. You guys can follow so that we get the whole feel for the whole document, and then we take inputs or additions or alterations or whatever. Okay, so the front page is a summary of what we did this week. So, confronting the challenges facing the timely delivery of viable public infrastructure to communities, impact of orchestrated unlawful land occupation. We refer to the shortfalls of the Prevention of Illegal Eviction Act legislations, realities of complex planning timelines for the development of mixed housing in the CBD and development corridors, impact of funding shortfalls for social housing development on the planning and operational of social housing projects in the Western Cape, and impact of severe flood damage on public infrastructure, including delays in the release of disaster relief funding. Then we delve into each of those 4 points. So the next slide will deal with point 1, the impact of orchestrated unlawful land occupation and the shortfalls of the PI legislation. So occupations have the direct effect of forcing municipalities to provide basic services to occupied parcels without having adequately provisioned for the concomitant increases in their budgets. Did I say that right? Concomitant. Lead to the obstruction of sewerage infrastructure. Lead, okay. Led to the obstruction of sewage infrastructure, illegal and unsafe connections to the electricity grid, violations of planning legislation, serious health and safety hazards for occupiers and residents alike, environmental harms, and a shortage of sufficient resourced basic social amenities such as clinics and schools. Unlawful occupations lead to queue jumping for affordable housing, further dispossessing the most vulnerable people in our country, and further also delay the completion of public infrastructure projects. During the 2021-22 financial year, the Western Cape Department of Infrastructure spent in excess of 1.62.2 million rand, and the City of Cape Town 142.8 million rand to prevent land invasions. Despite these interventions, the City of Cape Town still lost approximately 3,080 hectares of land, which is worth about 2.5 billion rand in property value as a result of unlawful occupations. Next page. The current PI Act provides a rigid set of requirements that need to be complied with in order for a person to be lawfully evicted, leading to lengthy delays in their removal. This comes at a significant cost to owners and a substantial burden on municipalities. Amendments to the PI Act has been proposed prior to this 2024 Provincial Week, which seeks to review the definition of home, carefully limit the incentive for bad faith occupiers to abuse the protections enshrined in the Principal Act, criminalize the incitement and organization of unlawful occupation, expand the factors to be taken into account by courts when considering applications for eviction, and to provide for further provisions relating to the availability of alternative housing. Right, point number 2, realities of complex planning timelines for the development of mixed housing in CBD and development corridors. The objectives of these developments are to create a mixed-use, mixed-income community, integrate residential, educational, and commercial elements, and promote sustainability, dignity, and inclusivity. Address housing needs in a strategic location, enhance connectivity and sustainability, and support community development. Challenges experienced in the development is a balancing mixed income housing needs, ensuring sustainability and managing security in a large open precinct, managing high density urban development, ensuring accessibility and inclusivity, and integrating sustainable features in a constrained space. Right, we're going to the next page of point 2. Multiple use developments with a social housing component is seen as a vital development model to address the past spatial planning inequity faced by the city, but the process is complex, requiring prolonged periods of planning and land use development application processes that can take many years to complete. A significant amount of financial resources is tied up into the packaging of all the licenses and agreements needed to commence a development, but social housing funds allocated to the SRA by Treasury is not sufficient to complete all these developments. Private-public partnerships are essential for the development of social housing, but as the land on which developments take place is not released to the developer, challenges occur during development phases where the developer needs to release source funding but cannot approach commercial lenders as the land on which the development is being constructed is still government owned. Let's make a note there. We've got to change something there. Next page, on page 2. Mixed-use developments are often needed to cross-subsidize social housing units built, but the economic downturn has put pressure on developers to find suitable tenants for more expensive lease units and commercial properties inside the development. Without high occupancy of these units, the subsidization of social housing will not succeed. The number of people on the social housing waiting lists in Cape Town far exceeds the number of units that developers can access SRA funding for. There's a need to revisit the funding model. Smaller municipalities will struggle to implement the same development model as these have smaller numbers of ratepayers that are required to cross-subsidize the services of social housing residents. Smaller municipalities also have less options in terms of grant access needed to support social housing developments. Okay, point number 3, impact of funding shortfalls for social housing development on the planning and operationalization of social housing projects in the Western Cape. The budget allocation within the National Department of Human Settlements for rental and social housing allocated to the SRA is insufficient to realize all the required developments in the planning and ready to implement stages of the City of Cape Town. There has been a need to adopt the affordable housing definition aligned to the Financial Services Charter thresholds. It's 29,600 monthly household income at the moment. Acknowledging the affordable housing delivered outside of government income benchmarks, which is still sitting at 22,000 Rand at the moment. So the government benchmark hasn't followed the Financial Services Charter thresholds. The encouraged development, the de-risking of sites through development packaging ahead of release must become institutionalized. Let's fix that, please. Must become institutionalized. Bulk packaging and release of land parcels are needed to derive more efficiencies. Next page, on 3, there's an opportunity for exploring alternative funding mechanisms for affordable housing beyond government subsidies, which may not be sustainable into the future. There's a need to consider the devolution of the what did that stand for again, Kobus? Consolidated something CCG grant. We must just get, I'd prefer if we write that out instead of the abbreviation. Funding to municipalities for localized administration to qualifying municipalities. Future-proofing of the land disposal program is needed by expanding beyond social housing, potentially introducing government responses for the market-led affordable housing. Point number, page 4, impact of severe weather, flood damage on public infrastructure, including delays in the release of disaster relief funding. I'm just going to read that, and we'll get to that page with the stuff that's highlighted in yellow when we go through the document again. Prior to flood damage, the Western Cape government faced a 34 billion rand backlog. Provincial Treasury something Cobus, 340 million rand for disaster repair assistance. That sentence doesn't read properly. Infrastructure for capital expenditure and administration. The current flood damage in the province since June 2023 is estimated to be 1.8 billion rand. There are several roads still affected by these events, but still require permanent maintenance and repair. The success of these actions is budget dependent and may take many years to complete, considering the reduction in the overall transport infrastructure budget and may be negatively affected by budget cuts. Next page, point 4. Risk mitigation includes new infrastructure being built to be more resilient to climate change impacts by building back better. A lack of clearing around the rivers in the Cederberg area contributed to the extent of flooding. River cleaning is also a strong job creation project, but DOI, Department of Infrastructure, is unable to work in these systems due to environmental limitations. Riverine clearing is a key flood damage preventative measure. And that's it. So if we start from the beginning again, the front page. So this is basically what I'm presenting on behalf of our delegation tomorrow morning in the Zoom meeting. So let us go through each page. And if anybody has picks up something that doesn't look right, or you want to make an input, then we'll handle it on a case-for-case basis. Okay, so on page 1, are there any inputs? Okay, page 1 there.
What is the format now?
The format is we go through the document,
Yes.
page by page, and if anybody has any input or discussion points or something that you want to change, then we change it. Remember, this is a framework. This is not the final report for this week. On request of the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, each province has 10 minutes to summarize what they've done this week tomorrow at the Zoom meeting. So this is the document that we're going to present tomorrow. So this is the opportunity that you have to give inputs into it.
Can I speak? No. Okay, there's no objection against the format. There's just as much as it's 4 or 5 pages. It is a hefty report with important information. And I understand that we have virtually agreed on not prolonging this meeting, but it's a lot of information that Mr. Chairperson. So let me just ask then, I understand the dynamics and the predicament of the city and every other municipality with regard to the issue of housing and illegal occupiers and so on. But I don't see that the report is discussing the constitutional imperative of access to housing, and that's in section 26 of the Constitution. Can we debate section 26? A, that says every citizen has a right to access to housing, not a house, but to access to housing?
The wording is
yeah, well,
specific wording is
fine, thanks. And then B is the state must do everything within its power to realize that objective. And that is important. Clause, you can amend, yes, sir. Hey? Section 26 of the Constitution.
Yeah.
So I just want to hear the over and above the cases that we have mentioned there with illegal occupiers, the struggling with the people occupying thousands of hectares of land to the value of what 2.something billion it was said. What is the way forward in terms of over and above the housing waiting list, because that's overloaded in virtually every town in South Africa. So what is the way forward delivering alternative housing models away from your RDP house, away from your brick and mortar house, away from where we can give more people access, but also access to land and services.
So, okay, thank you. When we look at section 26, then it says everyone has the right to have access to adequate housing. Sorry, it's not home, it's housing. We also have to then look at section 25, which is the counterbalance. Section 25, 4B. Sorry, section 25. Section 25(1). No one may be deprived of property except in terms of law of general application, and no law may permit arbitrary deprivation of property. So you have a landowner, which could be a municipality because it's municipal land, or a private owner, versus somebody's right to have housing in the Constitution. So, and I'm sorry you didn't attend the full program this week, and obviously you were sick. I think if you attended the full program, day one was to look at the effects of unlawful occupation on the housing pipeline. And day two was exactly what you spoke about now, how to take a step up from somebody who lives in terrible, undignified circumstances in a 4x4 shack, but who earns more than 3,500 Rand or is younger than 65 years old, because that's the qualifying criteria that the government hasn't changed since they started the RDP program. How to get those people into the housing pipeline. And the way to do it is there's obviously more than one model. There's the FLISP model, which is helping people, first-time home buyers, to assist them with grant funding, subsidized grant funding to take out a loan to purchase their first flat or house. And the second one is social housing. So the social housing is the places we visited yesterday, Conradie Park, which has already been developed, Maitland Mews and the Goodwood Station. So there you can rent qualifying tenants that's on the housing list, can rent a flat for as little as, I think the cheapest one was 475 Rand a month. So that's to answer your question, that's how people that live in 4x4 shacks on the Cape Flats can get access to dignified and sustainable housing environments.
Yeah, Chairperson, I don't want to make this a debate. This is obviously a much, much, much deeper debate than you and I and all of us, where you need collective input from more people than us. But I just thought we must break it down. We must put something into that report with regard to Section 26. Maybe some other minds or a meeting of the minds will decide, all right, this is an item that can be debated further on some other platform. I've noted, I've been, I think, to the site of Coburg. They've got decent flats there and people are paying virtually nothing on the, not flats, but the housing development there in the Coburg Road. Can't remember the name of the place, but it's very decent there. So you have mentioned FLISP, you've mentioned RDP, you've mentioned social housing, but I think we must also look at there are many people that do not qualify. They are divorced. And in terms of the current act, they do not qualify because they had property on their names. That's a point of debate, because once you expose them to rental stock, that's also a housing model, rental stock. Once you expose them to rental stock, they may access that. And those are mostly your working class people. They find themselves in squatter camps and in informal settlements, in illegal circumstances. You can go into any squatter camp now and see many of those people are working class people, so be able to afford. I think we must just wrap our minds around this. There's no opposition to the report. We must just wrap our minds around the fact that we also bring an outcome. I understand what you say, that you wanted to diagnose and point out the illegal activities and eviction, and occupiers and so on. But I think we must take the report further and say, how can we influence national government? Well, no provincial government would be able to afford. But national government must bring certain amendments to the national constitution and all other relevant related laws to accommodate people, because at the moment, many people are excluded, and these laws are virtually used and abused as barriers to keep people outside. And this applies to black and white and colored and Indian people. And that is my submission, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. I think, is there any other inputs? Okay, sorry. Farmer, Honorable Farmer, you were first, and then Honorable Swart. Just put your mic on so we can.
You answer again, or you said it again now in your answer to Mr. Giereke that there's housing provided for as little a cost of around 400, you said. I don't want to be part of a lie. And what you said is true, but when you look at the Goodwood project, 61% of the units is for the 5,000 to 6,000 rand people paying. 8% is for those in the lower bracket. It gives me the feeling that the small percentage of lower bracket people is just dragged around so we can say we provide housing for as little as 400.
Okay, the report doesn't say that though. Hey?
No, I'm getting to what the report says. My issue with the report on the first page is I need you to explain to me why the word shortfalls of pie is used, the word shortfalls, because the sense I got is not that the act has a shortfall. In fact, that the act don't allow for illegal invasions to be removed, and that's a problem. Not that the act is falling short of something. What the act stipulates is a problem for the developers or for development to happen. So that would be, okay, for this slide, that would be the only one I have.
Can I talk to that quickly? So the PIE Act is necessary. We're not saying we don't want the PIE Act, because the PIE Act is important so that somebody can't just arbitrarily put somebody off land. I'm thinking of farm workers, thinking of backyarders. So you have to have the PIE Act. We're not against the PIE Act in the sense. What we said is, let's address some of the shortcomings of the PIE Act. For example, and I think if you look at, just go to slide number 3. So
Ek kan nie sien as hy so klein is nie.
I can read. You can make it a bit bigger. Okay. So previously, the following amendments have been debated in Parliament. Slide number 3. Okay. So the review of the definition of home is really important, because if you have orchestrated land invasions, and it happens, you have somebody who puts down 4 walls, a roof, and quickly puts a makeshift bed on beer boxes inside, and that is now a home. So the legislators must tighten up the definition of home. What is a home? Is it something that you've lived in for 6 months or for a year prior? Then the PI Act will apply. But if it's something that was put down last night and tomorrow you can't be evicted because you have now a home on that piece of land. Somebody can come and put that structure in your backyard when you're on holiday. And when you get back, that person says, this is my home. So that definition has to be tightened up. That's why we say it there. Then limit the incentive for bad occupiers to abuse the protections enshrined in the Act. The Act at the moment says it's only applicable if evictions is only applicable if there was money changing hands. In other words, if it's a commercial transaction. So what we're proposing is make it for bad faith invaders that do it for other reasons than money. Then criminalize the incitement and organization of unlawful occupation. So if you are somebody who says, go and invade that piece of land, you need to be subject to the criminal law system. You can't incite. It's like incitement to public violence. There's a punishment for it.
May not encourage people to go and occupy a piece of.
So what we're saying is criminalize it. In other words, if you say it in terms of this act, then there's a punishment for it. Because that might be a factor that will stop the incitement of land invasions.
On the incitement, I am in agreement with you, but you must understand the wording there. It's merely about semantics. The wording you must get it properly, because why? Once you criminalize not only the perpetrator or the guy that incites, but you're also going to criminalize people without homes. You know, that is a very huge thing at the moment, because everybody there may be charged because they are part and parcel, they are willing participants. So we must be careful that we do not criminalize needy and poor people. That is all I say. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. But just to answer you, if that change is made, it speaks to the person that incites it, not the person that does the occupation. Then expand the factors taken into account by courts when considering applications for evictions. At the moment, the courts are limited to exactly what the PI Act says. So, to give you an example, a court might say, yes, I'll grant the eviction order, but you have to provide alternative accommodation for all those people, okay? Which creates a whole nother problem, because now there's queue jumping in the pipeline, in the housing pipeline. So the courts might want to take into account the fact that that person who occupied that piece of land has family somewhere else that could accommodate that person. But the courts don't do it at the moment because they don't have enough latitude. So that's what we mean with that change. And then to provide, and also if for example, the court says municipality, move those people, give them alternative accommodation, is it in perpetuity or is it for a limited period of time? So that's also what we mean with that change. And then provide further provisions relating to the availability of alternative housing, which is basically what I spoke to now. We have to, guys, we have to agree on the report. It's
we don't disagree. Yeah. It's just merely as I said. We don't disagree. We don't fight here politically. It is merely about semantics, and it's about assisting poor people also. It's about assisting people that do not have opportunities otherwise than qualifying. And therefore we cannot just, with all due respect, we cannot just criminalize anything or everything. There must be a more careful approach to address the poor, because you have a liberal constitution versus what we're trying to do now. So this may come, let's say for the sake of this argument, there's nothing wrong with what you want to do, what you intend, but you're going to meet, soos ons Afrikaans sê, jy gaan vasloop in die constitution daarvoor, because your constitution is liberal. And the courts won't accede to the demands of, small little laws versus the constitution. And that's as a matter of fact, because the constitution is sacrosanct and is the highest law in the country. So therefore, we must apply our minds. If we come up with a product, there's no objection to this report, sir. But if we come up with it, let us come up with a product that can satisfy and that can serve the markets, existing markets, but also protect the property of other people. And I think this is the aim here. We don't say people must go and invade land. We can never advocate or campaign for that, but we must think out of the box. Because unfortunately, you have millions and millions of people that are sitting in squatter camps, in informal settlements, and any government, or virtually all the governments in South Africa, close their eyes for that phenomenon. They deny it. They say, oh, it's well with us in our towns, in our country. And in the meantime, elderlies of 80 and 90 are still sitting in shacks and squatter camps as we speak. So what is the point of having a human rights constitution protecting human rights? But we do all this type of things to coward and bully people here along the wayside. Sorry for the strong words, but this is exactly what it is. Thank you.
You don't have to apologize about your opinion, sir. It's not a problem. But what I do want to propose, shortfalls might have a bit of unintended sharpness and criticism. Can that be changed to unintended consequences without diluting what is the aim of that bullet point? So say impact of orchestrated unlawful land occupation, unintended consequences.
Yeah. The members agree.
The provisions of the bill.
Okay, so extending the provisions. Remember, the PI Act protects invaders of land, and if you extend the provisions, you're extending the rights of the invaders versus the rights of property owners. So if you say extend, am I right? If you say extend the PI Act, then you're making it more PI Act.
It depends on what you are extending. Yeah. It's tricky. I understand both sides of the coin. I hate legal English because it can be anything in different circumstances.
Because I've qualified in law. I understand that. So your suggestion, I think, works better to say the unintended consequences. So are we on slide 3? Which one? Which point on slide 3 are you referring to? Okay, so that's slide number 3.
The limited incentives. Extending the last one is provide for further provision. It's extending.
It's semantics. We can make it extend. If it'll make the conversation. You can fix it.
Chairperson, sorry.
Okay. Honorable Gotzel?
I don't think the using the word extend when it comes to the definition of home is correct. The issue with what the definition of home at the moment is actually the problem.
Okay, so Honorable Farmers, talking to the first slide. where we talk with the shortfalls of power legislation in these, because I problem with the word shortfalls. So all we got to do is find another word for shortfall. Bottom, yeah.
I think since this will reach the lawmakers, and the way I understand it, if you, what is the wording that you use again, Honourable Farmer, to review,
Extend the
extend the provisions. Let me just ask you, Chairperson, if we talk about extending the provisions, are we talking about another legislative process that needs to take place where you have public participation and so on? Because you cannot just here in a corner extend.
It is any change in any act
Yeah.
becomes a bill. And
Yes.
it has to go through
Yes.
extensive public participation on both houses.
So therefore, I will propose unintended consequences. It's the right word, but slash review, because this is the feeling of the
100%, we can do that.
review.
I agree with that. Are you happy with that? Okay, Kobus. I think the second point and the third point speaks to a lot of what you said about housing for people, that's living in shacks at the moment. So, and I think that's the beautiful way that you compiled this document is we're talking about invading land. There's a problem in law because it's too wide. The act, there's not enough specific definition or specificities in there. Big word. And then we talk about social housing and how that alleviates the whole reason for occupying land. Is it takes away that need for so. But let's go for the next slide. Are you happy with slide number 2? Any problems there?
Chair,
Honourable Swart?
no, I actually wanted to. Now we've discussed the provision of social housing, and we all know what the intention is, what we saw, and also the minister with his first briefing. I just want to say, and Honourable Gineke also point out, and we visited 1 or 2 informal settlements. Where in our report is we're going to make mention of also the problem of the provincial minister. There's money available national and provincially for the upgrading of the situations currently in the informal settlements. We know it, and the national government, provincial government will never be able to have enough funds to build houses for all. We know it. And there was already 3 years ago that national government said, they will never be able to build all the houses. That was promised. But there is a fund available for the upgrading of the circumstances where people stay in the informal settlements. And we went there. What is the first one that we went to? The Noon. And the terrible circumstance that we had informal settlements in our municipality, and the circumstance on which people is staying there. I think we should advocate in the report that we should speed up with spending the funds. There was reports in for 4 years now already to ministers, but minister also said that the money is stuck somewhere. Not one informal settlement has been upgraded. There's a project upgrading of informal settlements, just to improve the living circumstances for where people stay while they're waiting on a list for social housing or.
Okay, we can maybe add it on slide 5, Kobus. If you can put it on the screen. The middle point, I'll get you now. A significant amount of financial resources is tied up into packaging. So, okay. All right. Okay, speak to the point.
speed with which it pops up everything. Then they had to readjust, never kept to. It was addressed And it was, I think the question was raised. By one of us. One of the issues in answer.
Can I remember this report? It's got to be a brief report because there's only so much time. Can I ask that our content advisor take note of the point? And remember, we're going to do another report, which I'm sure, are all going to have a chance to peruse in lots of time and do inputs on the big report before we present it.
Yeah, the process. So,
I just speak on what the honourable has said.
Let us quickly, sorry, I'll interrupt you. Let us get the process because there might be an answer there to more questions. Okay.
yeah, the process that is unfolding after the debriefing today is that there's a report back tomorrow on the highlights of each province's oversight. But at that point, the presentation is not the draft report from the province. That will still be presented to the entire delegation to scrutinize, and there will be more opportunity to give inputs and to fine-tune the final report. So what I'm doing now is exactly what was proposed. Anything that's coming up now is noted. If it's not a change on the slides, it must be a change in the reporting itself. In the draft reports, yes.
I just want Chairperson to refer that, the minister of one of the officials said the oldest squatter camp in the Western Cape, I think, is about 40 years. And the theme of this week, this timelessly timeless delivery of services. And it's timelessly we can't deliver if there's not money make available also, and infrastructure.
I appreciate that you want to note, but this is a critical and essential topic that was brought up by the colleague now. It speaks to the different models of housing that government has in their basket, and that we must put that on their stoop so that they tell us we can provide from 0 to 3,000. This caliber of people or qualifying criteria from 3,000 to 6,000. They must be able. Look, this has never happened before. It's a new field. It's a total new field, and we must put them in some kind of corner so that they jump out. You have the UASP, you have the rental stock, you have the RDP houses, you have the social housing, you have all those type of models. I think we must ask them, or just one sentence to say, there's a feeling to review the different models of houses vis-a-vis who can afford and who qualifies.
I think to assist you with that,
Yeah.
is
If I may just ask to quickly hunt down the slide where reference is already made for the fact that government is not keeping pace with the bracket of 22, the upper bracket of 22,000 versus 29,000. In that sequence, there should perhaps then also be opportunity to address all of the scales. I just want
slide number 7 as part of the modeling.
Yes.
Slide number 7.
So if I find
the financial services chart thresholds.
Yes, so point 2, there's space on the slide to bring in more reference then to the scales.
Just fix that thing. Long word. My finger is.
Yes, become institutionalized must be fixed.
There's space in there.
Yeah, I did.
Now let's put what Gerike refers to. Do you want to give us that sentence?
No, it's a very short. It just says that the government must, the national government must speak. For example, national government must define or review the different housing models. Payment mentioned it there, UISP,
The funding for the different housing models.
and who slots into the different factions.
The government must review. Government must review the funding for different housing models and review the categories,
The allocation.
the qualifying categories.
Yes.
For those models. Yeah.
How we going to put it specifically also is upgrading of informs in a category.
UISP.
Mm.
They've done UISP.
It's part of that package.
They've done UISP in Kimberley to George. I think 5,000 or 6,000 of those houses were built by the provincial government. The funding from the national government. You go and check it out.
Do I need to? Because I was typing and I'm not familiar with this field, so all the acronyms is not freely floating in my head. No acronym or?
UISP and FLISP and all those things fit into the package of different
Yeah,
models.
UISP is upgrading of informal settlement program. This is financed through subsidy.
FLISP.
I just wanted to know whether on the bullet points you want reference to any specific ones or if it's just the sentence as it is.
All the funding models.
Okay. Okay.
All the different categories and
Yeah, that's important.
So I'll just quickly flight it. The point was the national government must review the different, national government must review the different funding models for housing and who qualifies for these. Is that?
Are you happy with that?
That's not it's a basis, it's a foundation.
Okay. So that the nice thing is in the main
Maybe
report.
even put there, just in brackets, just put IE, UISP, plus
Social housing.
Yeah.
In fact, that graph that just has, it's got all those little acronyms in each tower. Okay. Anything else? Colleagues, I'm extremely proud of this report, of this provisional report.
Yeah.
I think it reflects exactly what we did this week. Obviously, in the draft main report, the conclusions from the site visits and all those things will be part of that. And then we'll all have a chance to peruse that in enough time to make more changes or additions or alterations. And then we send that in. So I thank you for your time. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, honourable members. Just in terms of tomorrow's report back session, it's a virtual report back session. It's starting at 8:30. The stakeholders involved will only be the Presidium and the Provincial, with all the delegation heads that led all the delegations. It's very short, from 8:30 till 10. Each delegation head will just get 10 minutes. But what the delegation head must focus on, according to the program, is the state of infrastructure, one, and progress in confronting the challenges facing the timely delivery of viable public infrastructure projects to communities. So I thought maybe it would be good if this is the draft report, the report. This wouldn't be the presentation for tomorrow. You need one slide. You need one slide, Chairperson, for tomorrow. You don't need all of this. You won't be able to, in 10 minutes, speak to all of that.
135, 40 words a minute. That's Doable.
Okay, if that is what you want to do.
It's 1,000, how many words? It's 1,500 words. Man.
This report is not saying.
So my point is that in order for you to focus on what is required for tomorrow, it needs to be reworked into answering those two issues. Firstly, the status of the projects. So, but I can speak to Kobus and he can put something together for you, and then you can look at
I'm
it.
not sure what you need. So give us those two, because remember these parameters, what you're saying now wasn't not really what was given to us before. What was given to us was a theme, and we've now gone and interpreted that theme. So I went to my premier and said, if this is the theme, what are the big bottlenecks? And that's how we got to this.
Okay.
So I don't think it's wise now go after our group has deliberated this, go and rework it. I'll take the flag if it's too long, whatever. But this is, and I'll defend. This is what we thought was the best way of addressing the thing. Remember we workshopped. We workshopped it. Sorry. We workshopped this as a group on a Zoom meeting before. Sorry, we workshopped this before. There was a meeting. I don't think Honorable Gericke made that meeting. It was on Zoom. We agreed to the draft program, and we followed that program as a committee, as a delegation. So that's how we got to this.
Okay, no, it's fine, Honorable Chair. I'm going to leave it there. Actually, what you're supposed to do tomorrow is in the program, in your program as well. It says it there. So I'm just, in case you want to defend what is in your program
Sure.
already. Yeah.
Sure, I will intro my presentation with what I said now.
Chair, can I just quickly here? Sorry, I don't want to take the meeting back, but I wasn't. What are the three subheadings? Let me just see. Through the chairperson.
And I can do it, the joint virtual report back session on the state of infrastructure and progress in confronting the challenges facing the timely delivery of viable public infrastructure projects to communities. So we could go and on a slide, take the Conradi model and say phase 1 has been completed, phase 2 has been completed, they're busy with phase 3, they're halfway through phase 3. We could say Goodwood station is fully complete and tenanted.
Yeah, that is fine. You can add that.
If you want to,
Because that's the essence of the report.
yeah. That's the nitty. It's a little bit more specific than this, but it's fine. I mean, I thought that our main report will contain all that information.
And Chair and the rest of the delegation, when you report at a meeting like tomorrow, is to show that the delegation applied its mind to say that we've come up with the following recommendations. For example, the PI Act recommendations, any other even if it's 4, just a slide on the recommendations.
The recommendations are in there, Kobus. You must just pull them out and highlight them.
Yeah.
There's about 10 recommendations in there if you read it carefully. So if you can just extract them, then I can speak to them.
Yes. Yeah. We must listen to the professionals also, no? Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay. Are you all happy?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Farmer.
Just a question, Chair. Aren't we supposed to agree on the recommendations before you present tomorrow?
That's what we've done now.
We just agreed on the report.
You've just asked him to take it out there and list it.
He's not gonna change any wording. He's just gonna take our recommendations out and list it separately, so because that's what they want us to present tomorrow.
From my side, Mr. Comrade, Honorable Farmer. Ek vergeet julle is in die GNU.
Don't go there.
Chairperson, I think if you do the presentation tomorrow, the presentation will be included in the Hansard version also, even if it's a draft. Yes,
Let's ask the professionals.
yes, I asked the professionals. Every presentation there in the NCOP and Parliament will be included into the Hansard. So we will be able to elaborate and find the. Yeah.
Not published in the Hansard because it's a meeting of the delegation needs. So there will be recording of the meeting, which we can circulate after the meeting.
Remember that through the chair, the commitment, the agreement has been given here that this is not the final report. There will be a more comprehensive report. This is what has been said in the meeting.
We could always just vote on it.
No, it's not. Don't come with this.
But I'd rather us agree on it. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.
Maybe we should vote so I can have my counter vote registered.
But you don't agree with the report.
Yes.
But I thought that what we've just done is all agree on it. And then that would be much nicer than going, I hate the report and I don't want it or whatever. We work together on this report.
We predominantly or yes, exclusively agree, but we also have our reservations as parties. There's nothing wrong if a party has its reservations.
Of course.
There's absolutely nothing.
That's going to be in the debate that we do
in the debate.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, members. Appreciate it. Have a good afternoon.